Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot's E3 stage. I'm your host, Mike Mahardy. I'm here with Rob Hanley.
Hey.
And pleased to have creative director Will Ho from Need for Speed Payback.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Finally got to show off more of Need for Speed Payback a couple days ago at the EA press conference.
Yeah, it's been exciting.
Yeah.
To get into the world.
Yeah, definitely. So we saw, I think at this point, most people watching will have seen like the gameplay segment we saw, right? It was very much kind of, it gave a sense of the tone of the game you're going for.
Yeah, the highway heist, right?
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Like, it seems very like action. People are making like Fast and Furious references.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that what you're going for? Something like that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's been really great to reveal more of the game in Hollywood because we're viewing Need for Speed through a Hollywood lens. And we're taking everything that people love from Need for Speed over the years. You know, iconic cars, insane customization, cop chases, intense races, you know, gorgeous environments, but then sharply focusing all of that into a playable action movie. Because I grew up, you know, loving cars and loving, you know, playing with cars and watching, you know, car shows and car movies, and everyone has their favorite action scenes, right? You know, car chases, you know, bad guys versus good guys, you know, insane stunts, and just being able to present Need for Speed in that way, I think just lights everyone's imaginations and gets people excited, right? Like with the highway heist, when people see, you know, the car jumping out of this 18-wheeler in motion on a highway, people just, oh my God, feel it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then also, can we talk about the story? There's like 3 playable characters, if I'm not mistaken, or
That's
3
right.
main characters.
Yeah, there's 3 characters that you drive as, and you know the reason behind that is because, you know, coming off of the last Need for Speed, people really wanted more variety, right, and more reasons to race, and more motivation, more characters that they could relate to, and so we expanded the variety of gameplay from the core Need for Speed racing and drifting and style events, and added more action driving. You know, missions that are, you know, like movies where, you know, you have to take that package to the destination on time, or you have to get that VIP from point A to point B without getting caught. And so we have 3 characters that embody that, right? We have Tyler, who's the racer, an aspiring street racer. And we have Mac, who's the showman, and he's all about extreme driving and stunts and drifting. And then Jess is our action movie hero. She's the consummate professional, right, who gets, you know, the job done, right? And those 3 characters represent the whole variety of gameplay, and they come together in missions like this one, the highway heist, where they have to collaborate. They have to come together as a crew. And they, you know, in every action movie sequence, things go wrong, right?
Yeah,
they got the best laid plans, and things go completely sideways.
Yeah, of course.
And they have this banter. They have to improvise. They have to really cooperate in order to still achieve their goals together.
It seems like you have a lot of unique ways to create like dynamic missions, more or less, right? Like you see the scene where I forget what character it is, but she jumps onto the truck, and then next thing you know, it's, you know, her ability to, I guess, heist it. So that's like a I guess an interesting way of developing these missions.
Yeah, the way we see it is that, you know, it's still about, you know, that core Need for Speed gameplay, right? It's about, you know, driving fast to carve through traffic, right? It's about, you know, chasing down rivals and battling and jostling with them. And it's about getting to a destination on time, right? And your reward for getting to that destination is these cool action movie moments, right? Give you a little breather, you know, give you a little, you know, surprise, you know, to delight you, and then boom, you know, with Jess coming out of that, the back of that truck in the Koenigsegg, that's a dynamic vehicle switch, a dynamic character switch. So you're playing as one character, and you're playing as a different character, and it seamlessly transitions from one to another. We have a number of missions in the game from start to finish that involve, you know, you experiencing those scenarios from all 3 different points of view.
Cool. So you didn't work on the 2015 reboot, but you said you've worked on past Need for Speed games. Can you talk about your experience with the series leading up until now?
Yeah, so you know, it's sort of my childhood dream to make you know, driving games and racing games. You know, I'm just a car nut, and so you know, it was a real privilege, you know, being a fan of the early Need for Speeds, like, you know, Need for Speed 3, Hot Pursuit, and those games, to finally work at Black Box in Vancouver. And it was a privilege to work in games like Hot Pursuit 2 on the PlayStation 2, Underground series, and Most Wanted. And that, you know, is sort of a, you know, we like to think of it as a golden era. I mean, Need for Speed's always been great, but, you know, really great memories of that era. And then, you know, now I'm able to, you know, take that experience and sort of, you know, come back to Need for Speed and really think about, well, how do we take all those core elements and make a modern Need for Speed out of it, right? One that's, you know, thoroughly contemporary, one that is, you know, speaking to players now, right? Players are more sophisticated now, right? We've sort of advanced the breed, and so people are expecting, you know, a diverse open world. They're expecting lots to discover, lots to collect, more strategy, more choice, more freedom, right?
Right. Someone comes in like say I just play a lot of shooters, I play a lot of strategy games, and I know there are a lot of racing games out there that people play. But if you wanted to describe the Need for Speed formula, the kind of that structure of the game to me, how would you describe it, and how do those tenets that you think of in the Need for Speed game factor into Payback?
Yeah, it's really about, it's about your favorite cars, right? And it's about choosing from a selection of iconic cars and having that personal relationship with the cars that you choose and how you choose to customize it visually, right? To make it a personal expression of what you want. And then to upgrade it with the parts that you want, right? And then to tune all those parts into something that, you can master in racing, that you can master in drifting, that, gets you through the missions, the way you want, right? So that you can get maximum reward. And then, so taking that avatar, right? The car is the star, right? And then putting it in all these different situations in the world, right? Discovering, going through missions, right? Playing through the single-player campaign, right? Getting from start to finish. It is a bit of a revenge story this time. I won't spoil too much of it, but to play out that revenge story with a stable of cars, but then also in the open world, discovering more missions, discovering side quests, discovering activities, right? You could be going along this highway and there are billboards to smash, right? There are big air moments, there are speed zones, there are drift zones, right? So I think that, Need for Speed now is a proper open world game, right? With all that discovery, with all that freedom of choice and non-linearity that players expect.
Yeah, we saw in the footage, like briefly, kind of the slow motion kind of crashes. Can we talk about the game mechanically? Like, what were some things you wanted to do that maybe the reboot didn't really accomplish, or what you learned from the reboot that you wanted to make it feel the way you wanted this game to feel when you're actually playing it?
I think something that we really keyed on early on is that sense of you really feeling the tension of chasing down AI rivals. Right, so as you're going through a race, as you're going through a mission, in this case we've got these House Enforcer cars, the black ones, right? You're barreling down on them, and you're really trying to remove them because they're protecting the cargo on the truck. We really want to dial in our AI with a bit of an attitude problem, right? So that as you approach them, you feel that tension. You're going to overtake them, or you're going to shunt them, and they're going to fight back. They're going to make your life difficult for you, right? So we're battling with these House Enforcers, and that's a reward, right?
Yeah.
Because you've made that happen. You made that action movie moment happen yourself, and you get to be the star of that. And then you move on to the next action movie moment. Right?
So
work your way to the climax.
I'm sure there are plenty of things you can ram these guys into, like a barn or
I think
players
are going to discover, through open world exploration, what they choose to leverage, in these blockbuster missions, right? You can use traffic cars to your advantage, you can use guardrails, you can use any of the objects on the roadside, to help eliminate these rivals.
Yeah, how does Fortune Valley, if I'm not mistaken, how does that factor into it? Like, I guess like two questions, like why choose to set in what I assume is kind of a proxy for Las Vegas?
It's definitely southwestern U.S. Right? Yeah, it's not just one city or another, but definitely, coming back to the theme of variety and what fans have asked for over the last 2 years is we really want to pick a location where every region of this map is different, right? Visually different, and also has gameplay that's matched to that visual variety. So we have a core city that has casinos, it has an entertainment district, but in addition to that glamorous side, we've got gritty side, right? We've got desert, we've got industrial areas, we've got construction sites, we've got a spillway, from certain action movies that is cool to dive into, right? And then when you get out of the city, right, you go into the canyons, right? Extreme deep canyons, right? We've got this mantra where if you can see it, you can drive to it. So you can be at the top of the canyons and look down at the bottom of the canyon. How do I get to that river way down there? Or you're down at the river, how do I get to that bridge that's way up in the sky? Right? And then we've got also mountains, right, for those switchbacks, right? Doing your drifting up and down switchbacks, right? And extreme elevation change. And then what's anchoring it is this area that you see is the desert, right? This vast desert in the middle of the map that you can really book it off of the tarmac and explore this vast desert.
Yeah, one thing I liked about Forza Horizon 3 recently was that I didn't have to like necessarily focus on doing like this challenge or finding this car. I could just kind of drive in this open world. Is there an effort to kind of appeal to players who would just like to explore like Fortune Valley and?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be tons of activities for you to discover. You're going to discover some side races. You're going to discover roaming racers, right? So, because we've got this enormous street racing culture in Fortune Valley, so you're going to be discovering guys who are going to challenge you, right? And then you're going to have rivalries and ladders between these guys, right? You're going to meet several different street leagues while you're exploring Fortune Valley, and then all of this has leaderboards, right? So as you're exploring, posting times, posting scores, you're going to be compared against your friends, and we're going to push the most relevant scores to you so that it's really easy for you to one-up your friends.
Yeah, I think it's the first thing we noticed when we saw Payback was that presumably there are no more live-action cutscenes a la the 2015 reboot. As someone who didn't work on that reboot and you came into as a creative director on Payback, but like you said, you had lengthy experience in the series. Was there anything that the team learned from the reboot that they wanted to avoid or implement further in Payback?
I think definitely with the cutscenes, we really wanted them to be more relatable, but also a lot more flexibility in where they could be set. Because we have this gorgeous open world with tons of beautiful locations, and we've got 24-hour time of day in this world. So it's nice to be able to set our cutscenes, with our characters next to their cars, interacting with their cars anywhere in the world, right? And that just adds to the level of immersion in the world, right? You're never taken out of the world to watch a movie and then come back into the world. You're always in the story. You're always in this fiction in Fortune Valley.
Cool. I do have to ask, we mentioned like Fast and Furious. What other kind of like car movies, heist movies, race movies are influencing you as someone who's super into Hollywood?
Yeah, there's probably too many to list, but like
Yeah.
if you could name like any movie that you've watched, right?
Yeah.
That it could be like a cop movie, it could be an action movie, it could be like a even like a sci-fi movie with like insane chases involving tons of vehicles, great stunts, great drifting, heroic moments that just like just stick in your mind. We kind of have a team that lives and breathes that and has grown up in that kind of culture, right? And we're able to. It's really fun in our jam sessions with our team to just go like, what are we going to do for this one? How are we going to one up the last mission that we did, right? And we're just picking and choosing from like literally decades of experience of watching these movies.
Yeah.
Right? So it's pretty easy pouring those memories into Need for Speed Payback.
Yeah.
Like I was watching Bullet last night. There's this moment
classic.
in that scene, like that could be a great cinematic opportunity. Yeah. I don't know how much you can talk on it, but like you mentioned like Hot Pursuit earlier, as far as like cop chases or anything like that. I mean, there will be moments of that, obviously. I think I heard somewhere about like the ability to, again, utilize your environment to, cheat your way.
Yeah.
Get them to force them on like a turn off or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can you speak on anything?
Yeah,
like
so
cop
something
chases?
about the cops is that, going back to the story for a minute, is, we've got this sort of evil cartel called the House. Right? And why they're evil is because they control everything. They control the casinos, they control the cartels, they control the cops even. So, when our crew, they're sort of, kicking up a fuss in the city of Silver Rock, the House, they're not taking it lightly. So they're sending the cops at you with full force.
Yeah.
So we don't have these cops that are just cruising around like security guards or mall cops anymore. Every time you see the cops, you are going to feel anxious about it. Right? You're going to go, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? So we amp up the level of the cop chases right away. And we're bringing back, spike strips. We're bringing out roadblocks. We've got, copters tracking you, and we're bringing back rhinos, right, from the past. Like, because people go, oh my God, there's something barreling down at me trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So we've got all those elements in our cops, and our cop chases are going to be pretty intense.
Cool.
Awesome.
So last question, when can we play Need for Speed Payback?
Yeah, so Need for Speed Payback is coming out November 10th on PlayStation 4, on Xbox One, and Windows PC.
Cool. Will Ho, thank you so much for joining us on the stage.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a great rest of
the
the show.
It's been awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. If anybody watching, we will have many more demos and interviews like this throughout the week up on our GameSpot E3 stage. We'll have a lot of people going on in our co-op stage downstairs. But for all that, for news, for more interviews, you can stay tuned here throughout the week.